What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we have some potential huge news on the Monolith Soft and Xenoblade Chronicles front. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you are someone new. Now shout outs to my man Stealth with the find via Twitter. The Bratislava Symphony Orchestra has confirmed via Facebook that they just got done doing a video game recording in Japan. And the man himself, who has composed some of the most legendary tracks of all time when it comes to video games, and especially with the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, Mr. Yasunori Mitsuda, has confirmed that he was at that session, saying that it was a great recording session. Thank you very much. So now we have a confirmation that Mr. Yasunori Mitsuda is working on a huge video game recording session. Now there's a lot to unpack here, and I know some of you guys are thinking, okay, well, how does this connect to Xenoblade? What's going on here with the game? Well, there's a couple different things. Now, if you go back to 2017, Yasunori Mitsuda did something very similar. Earlier in the year, he confirmed that he was recording for a game. And then later, that game ended up being Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which we already knew at the time that he was working on a Xenoblade or could potentially be working on that, but it followed the same type of timeline here. Now, another thing that you guys have to know is that when it comes to video game music, you record at the end of the project. You don't do the music beforehand. And the reason why you don't do it beforehand is because you need to see all of the sequences. You need to get a feel of the characters. You need to kind of know what's going on in the game, the mood, the atmosphere, the actual plot line, so you can kind of conjure up what type of music, what type of things that you're going to do at that given time. It's actually very important for the music composer, especially in Japan, to see what's going on, to have a good grasp of the plot and what they need to do with the music, so you can set the right tone, mood, and atmosphere for each individual scene. So if he's doing a video game music project or a big recording for that, and obviously you're looking at this huge picture, or you saw that huge picture of like a choir recording and everything, then you know it's going to be something that is large scale at this point. Now he's teased before, which I did cover on this channel. I'll try to have a link for you guys in the description. If not, just look up Xenoblade Chronicles on my channel and see all of the most recent news that I've talked about, where he actually blurred out some things. There were some papers and stuff that were blurred out, which I think actually had character artwork on those papers. So maybe it gave him a synopsis of who that character is, what type of personality they have, so he could put together different types of themes for those characters, which is why I think it was blurred out, so there wouldn't be any transfer of information or any type of hint of what could be going down. Now, I do have a little bit of inside information from some sources that I do have. Now, I wouldn't 100% put this in as if it's going to happen, guys. We still need to wait and see. Things are a little bit blurry on the ends, but it does seem like this is going to be a new Xenoblade game. Now, it still could be that new IP that Monolith Soft is rumored or somewhat kind of known to be working on, right? Monolith Soft, big studio. They have multiple different teams, with a lot of them doing Nintendo work when it comes to supplementary work, Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing. They've helped out with various different games, Splatoon. I mean, they're doing all sorts of stuff. But they also have quite a bit of people on the main team that have been working on some projects. Now, what we do know is that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country actually used a modified, newer engine of what they were trying to do on the Nintendo Switch. Because if you think about it, they've been using kind of like the same thing for quite some time. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was an evolution of what they were using with Xenoblade Chronicles X and that engine that they built for the Wii U. So pretty much they've been using the same type of thing. Have they advanced that engine even more? I'm guessing that's what Monolith Soft's core teams that make the Xenoblade games, or even this new IP, have been really trying to just nail down and get that. So we do know that is a thing. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna of the Golden Country definitely had a better look to the game. But I do feel if they're going to come with a new Xenoblade game when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, this would be the first one that was built specifically for the system, and not necessarily kind of building off of something else like Xenoblade Chronicles X, same engine, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and everything like that. Yes, it was an upgraded engine to where they were doing things, but it was still in the transition phase. I still feel that if they do a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or they do a new IP, this will be their first actual full-in Switch game. So we should see much better visuals and also better performance as well from the game. But I think the most important thing to kind of note with all of this is that it's been 4+ years, or going on 4 years, since their last mainline game from a team that was more of the secondary team. There was only 40 people plus, 40 to 50 people that made Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You have to realize that that is an astronomical feat for only that small amount of people to make a game like that. The last time that they actually had the huge team onto something, kind of all hands on deck, was Xenoblade Chronicles X, because that took everything that Monolith Soft had at the time. So we're talking back in 2014, 2015, or 2013, 2014, 2015, when they're constructing and building this game. And I think that team is working on something. And of course, they've added a bunch of people to the mix when it comes to Takahashi-san's main team, the overall team power of Monolith Soft hiring new people for projects and everything. So here's what I think is going to happen with this, because we did get Xenoblade Chronicles 2 back in 2017. The music recording was confirmed on there. Now this isn't confirmed to be Xenoblade Chronicles at this point. I've just been hearing some things here and there that it could be that. But once again, I want to make sure that I stress, we have to wait and see on it. We really do have to wait and see on it. But I would expect this game to be revealed at the minimum this year in 2021. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a 2021 launch at this point, whatever this game ends up being. I'm thinking, based on some information that I have, that it will be a Xenoblade game, some type of Xenoblade game. We need to know what it's going to be, though. We don't know if it's going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Xenoblade Chronicles X2. It's not going to be a port, though. I can say that. The big recording is not going to be a port. It is going to be a new game. So I do have that information for you guys. But when it comes to the actual release of the game, that could be a 2022 thing, or it could be later down the line. But since it is wrapping up the recording here, I would guess that they want to try to get the game out here in 2021, considering that they're wrapping up the recording now. But it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. I'm very excited for Monolith Soft's next project. I'm very excited to see what they're doing, because everything that they've made in their history has been really good. I don't think Monolith Soft has ever made a truly bad game. So let's see how this all plays out. E3 2021 is coming up very soon. Maybe Monolith Soft has some surprises for us there. So what are your thoughts on this when it comes to everything that's going down with the music composition and what potentially we could be getting for a new Xenoblade game? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the final topic here, guys, we have another RPG developer that is pledging more big-time support for the Nintendo Switch. Now, in a recent interview with Falcom and Nippon Ichi Software, both of the representatives of the company, you had the president of Falcom and a representative and higher up with Nippon Ichi, both of them talked about their relationship, porting games to the Nintendo Switch, getting stuff going, what's the plan going to be, and potential future games. And it's a long interview, so I'm not going to sit there and read everything. I'm just basically going to kind of paraphrase and tell you what was said in the interview. Please make sure you go read the full interview. It's a great read, considering where the Nintendo Switch was and how Falcom thought about things back in 2017 and 2018, and now at this point, because the president of Falcom is not a bum, and he's not stupid, and he sees where the thread is going. He sees where the market is going, and he knows that Switch is probably more in the future of what his company's going to do, especially considering that they're heavily marketed in Japan, and their base, a lot of it is Japan. They get a lot of sales there and kind of release there first, more so than anything. He sees what's going on with the Switch. So I think that this interview was carefully planned, because he wants to let Switch owners know, like, hey, this is pretty much what we're going to be doing. Now, in this interview, he states that they do plan on doing more Switch support in the future. They talked about porting over some of the older games, and it does seem like the Trails in the Sky series is going to get more ports. Some people have been asking about the Legend of Heroes and if we're going to get some of the previous games, and it does seem like that is going to be happening as well. Nippon Ichi just has to work on it. There's a lot of work to do porting these games over, but they also want to bring over some of the stuff from the older systems as well. So the thing about it is this is what I've talked about before. A lot of these AA type of developers, these developers that make fantastic gameplay systems and mechanics, they just don't have the budget to be making, you know, huge FF7 remake style of visuals and graphics, but they make great actual playing games. You're going to see a lot more of them pledging this type of support. When the person asking the question said, okay, well, is the plan to kind of just make games on PlayStation, then port them over to Nintendo Switch? The Falcom president is like, well, that's the plan for now, but we don't know what's going to be in the future. So that mainline development in terms of what they do could be switched over. But I think he sees that, right? He sees the sales in Japan. He sees that the Nintendo Switch is selling at a blistering pace, and it's going to hit over 100 million. And if you look at what the PlayStation brand is kind of going in, obviously Sony is kind of taking more of the Western approach, and PlayStation 5 sales are not doing well in Japan. On top of that, there's tons of shortages, but you still need to release your games. So it doesn't seem like there's going to be a smooth transition over from the people that were buying the Falcom games on PlayStation in the PS4, PSP, PS Vita days and all that, and people now at this point with the PlayStation 5, with Sony no longer making a portable type of system. So it seems like if I were him, and I think he realizes this, that hey, we really need to kind of go in a lot more on the Nintendo Switch. So I think that's why they wanted to put out this interview. I think that's why they also want to promote some of the games out there. And I think that the Falcom president knows that things are changing, especially when it comes to the dynamics of their type of games and where the consumers are playing them, because eventually the PS4 will be phased out and you're not just going to continuously start releasing on PS4. You're going to have to go to PS5. But by that time, will there be a market that will actually buy the games strictly on PlayStation 5, or will you just continuously do PlayStation 4 backwards compatible? There is a lot of things to unpack, but I think it's very clear what he's trying to say here. So make sure you guys check out the full interview. It's very good, but we have another big RPG maker in Japan actually pledging that big support for the Switch. So that's exactly what you want to hear. So what are your thoughts on both of these topics here when it comes to it? I'm excited for the RPG news on the channel. This is going to be an awesome summer. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.